Welcome back to Royal Productions. My name is Louis. Remember, your mind is your crown. Either take this information or leave it. But regardless, always do your own research. All right, let's get into this total crypto market before we hit this news I have for you guys today. So the total crypto market is sitting at 2.2 trillion. Fear and greed index sitting at 37. Bitcoin 64,000. Ethereum 1925. XRP 108. Solana 75. If you guys want to see the rest of these prices, they're on the screen now. You can pause it. All right, let's move into this first article I have for you guys today. Robinhood Chain's real-world asset jump fivefold as tokenized stocks start trading in bigger sizes. So they've been working on tokenized stocks, but they're starting to clear 500,000 a day and up to 1 million a day. But we'll cover that in a second. EU hits Russia with massive 21st century sanction package targeting 120 billion crypto network. So the EU and Russia are not getting along right now. Russia's coming out with their own game plan while the EU is coming out with their own, and they're starting to butt heads on certain ideas. But we've covered it last week, so if you guys want more about Russia and what they're doing, then you guys can head over to my channel and check that information out. All right, moving on. Democratizing weather derivatives through tokenization could be crypto's most important real world use case. So yes, you've heard it right. They are talking about democratizing weather derivatives. So with blockchain, and we've covered it before, where say there's a farmer and there's a storm coming in that direction, the futures and stuff like that, they will start being calculated differently based off the weather patterns. Okay, but we'll cover that in a second and read through that, which I think it's good, but it's also bad. It's just all up in the air from this point. But moving on. Brazilian farmers tokenize dairy cows to get loans, bypassing banks' lending limits. Yes, they're using their cows. Some of these cows are wearing smart collars to monitor the herd, but we'll cover that in a second. Stick around. Next on the list, Securitize builds Wall Street's credentials with SEC advisor license as tokenization expands. So BlackRock is already moving. Like, they weren't in this game a couple years back, but now they are, and they're getting all these different licenses and regulators to sign off on what they're trying to build. But we'll cover that. This is not exactly Securitize and not exactly BlackRock, but they are connected. Okay, moving on. Next article. NVIDIA forms 37-member AI security alliance without OpenAI, Anthropic, or Google. Okay, so all this is coming up next. Remember, articles will be linked down below. Let's get it. Alrighty, first article I have for you guys today is Robinhood Chain's real-world asset jump fivefold as tokenization stocks start trading in bigger sizes. So basically, the chain built to put equities on chain has tripled in size since mid-July, and a dozen tokenized stocks are now each clearing 500,000 a day on Robinhood alone. Okay, real-world assets are growing fast through meme coins and stable coins that still dominate the chain. So we'll go down here. Tokenized real world assets on Robinhood Chain have surged to about $70 million in value, a roughly fivefold increase in less than 2 weeks as tokenized equities begin trading at scale. A dozen token stocks led by GameStop, Nvidia, and SpaceX are now each clearing at least 500,000 in daily volume on Robinhood alone. Okay, just think about that. With several surpassing 1 million. Okay, so they're moving into the future, and I think Robinhood is working on something big. I have a Robinhood account that I used to get direct deposits into, and they have shut that down. I got an email and this and that. They transferred my spending allowance into my main account, but it's one of those things where in the email they said the bank will actually reach out to me and let me know what's happening in the future. So I think Robinhood is starting to work on their own bank. I haven't seen nothing or covered that or even looked for something. So with the email and with the information I got personally, I think it's real. They're moving ahead into becoming a bank. But do your own research, understand what this means. And Robinhood is kind of one of those companies that set it. They leveled the playing field, I could say that way, because they allowed regular users like ourselves to get into this without the broker. And if you guys are aware of that, then you know. If you don't know, then understand that before this, we had to talk to a broker. Before Robinhood, before them removing the middleman, we've had to speak to a broker to trade or sign off on certain credentials and whatnot. But Robinhood make it easier for a lot more people to get involved with trading, and I think that's why they're like it says here, it jumped fivefold. Okay, because tokenized stocks is different from regular stocks and how it works, right? So remember, always doing your research. Links will be down below. Moving on. The EU hits Russia with a massive 21st century sanction package and target 120 billion crypto network. The EU is considering a ban on a third country crypto service provider for the first time and is targeting 14 crypto companies, which it has not named yet. So just pay attention to this and what's happening. Russia came out with their own thing last week, and I don't think the EU likes what they've done. But alongside the digital asset measures, the EU is freezing assets and banning transactions for 94 banks and major financial institutions, and extending its transaction ban to 33 additional Russian credit and financial institutions. So this whole idea, like I just said, the level playing field, each country has their own rules, of course, but in order for them to be in control with this one world government, everybody has to be playing the same ball. You can't have certain countries playing football while another country's playing soccer. It doesn't make any sense, right? But when we talk about transactions, when we talk about what this actually means for the system needs to work interoperable. It has to communicate with each other, and these governments and institutions have to allow themselves to be monitored, allow themselves to be regulated, and it's one of those things where you have the new world order, you have all these WEFs, that you have these major corporations that actually run this stuff. So remember, blockchain and crypto and all this stuff came out of nowhere. Okay, so we're at a pivotal point now where everybody's just running around like a chicken with its head cut off, trying to figure out how to gamify, I guess, this new network the best they could for their own country and their own people. But yeah, this ban is huge, especially when it's coming from the EU. But we'll see. This might just create more chaos. It might just push down the Clarity Act down the road. And yeah, summer's coming up. They're about to go on their little vacation. We'll see what happens with the Clarity Act. But every country is working on this right now. If you guys want more about these banned countries and regulators, you guys can go to the link down below and read it for yourself. All right, moving on. Democratizing weather derivatives through tokenization could be crypto's most important world use case. I'm not going to go too heavy into this, but when you have conspiracy quote unquote, when you have a certain amount of people or governments able to control weather, and then you talk about adding the weather onto the tokenized platforms, this can be very dangerous, y'all. Very dangerous. But you know, it's neither here nor there. I'm not saying governments control the weather or elite control the weather, but when you're talking about tokenizing the weather, that's a whole nother ball game. Okay, but anyways, weather related disaster and climate transition risks are growing rapidly, yet the traditional weather derivatives market remain tiny, opaque, and largely inaccessible to those most exposed. Okay, so I would love it if the information was there on the blockchain, but not the gamification of the weather. I think that's just hands down the worst idea when we talk about the blockchain, when we talk about these systems that run 24/7, that are the system, the way it's going to work in the future, it's going to be 100% like the whole idea of you walking into a grocery store and the milk being a different price for you than it is for the person who went that morning. And why? Because the blockchain updates 24/7, like right away. So for instance, the gallon of milk can be $5.30 when you walk in that morning, but about $5.60 or $5.70 by the time you get there in the afternoon. And that would be based off the information that's gathered from the weather, that's gathered from this next article we're going to cover, but to the point where everything is going to be tokenized, everything. including the weather. Okay, and people have to understand the future we're moving into. When these articles come out, these are signals for us to pay attention to. Sounds crazy, right? Tokenizing weather derivatives on public blockchains could automate payments via smart contracts, reduce counterparty risk, and open climate risk hedging to farmers, small businesses, and other non-institutional users. Remember, you create the problem, you create the reaction, and then you give them solution. Okay, I believe we do control the weather to an extent, but that's neither here nor there. I'm not going to get into conspiracy, but yes, weather is going to be democratized as derivatives in the future, and maybe even tokenized. You know what I mean? But especially with future trading, you know what I mean? Like, it's just getting out of control. All right, moving on. Here's to the next thing. I think this is another crazy thing, but this is just the reality we live in now. But let me get to the article instead of my own opinion. Brazilian farmers tokenize dairy cows to get loans, bypassing bank lending limits. Okay. Smart collar monitors herds health in real time to prevent fraud, allowing local agriculture businesses to secure thousands in funding backed by livestock. So in real time, say for instance, you have 1,000 cows, some weather disaster happens, all these cows are wearing neck collars and monitors. Okay, you lose about 800 of these cows. Well, guess what's going to happen to meat in that area or for that farmer? Guess what's going to happen to milk in that area or for that farmer? And these are just cows. This can be done with fucking chickens. It could be done with, excuse my language, pigs, anything people eat, even vegetables, okay, to that extent. All right. And people don't understand how it would work. If you have a system that's scanning all this, okay, like for the cows, they have a smart collar. Imagine you had an AI that was able to look at a plant and see if it was healthy, or look at the trajectory of the weather, quote unquote, manipulation, and see what was going to happen in the future of certain foods and plants and stuff like that, or even livestock. It's one of those things where I don't know. I don't want to go too far into conspiracy. I want to stick to the facts here. But farmers in Panorama, Brazil, struggling to get bank loans, them cash, become the first to tokenize livestock and place 10 dairy milk cows tokens for the trade of the country's B3 national stock exchange. They granted nearly 20,000 in credit backed by their cattle, signaling the potential of tokenizing real-world assets as a financial tool. So real-world assets, these cows are a real-world asset, just like your house, just like your car, anything you can think of that you own is a real-world asset and could be put on the blockchain or even used for a loan. Okay, so I think this is crazy. I don't see no smart collars on them here, but I would love to see how this actually works. Okay, if you want more on it, click the link down below. Moving on. All right, Securitized builds Wall Street's credentials with SEC advisor license as tokenization expands. And it seems like that's all I cover is tokenization, right? Like, but it's not. These are the articles that come out, and these are the signals for you guys to pay attention to. This is what they're moving into. These big companies looking for licenses and regulators to sign off on what they're doing. That's part of all this. It has to be regulated. It has to be looked at. Like, with this type of system, it's new, but you can't just come in and do whatever you want because it's new. You have to follow certain guidelines in order to be a part of this expanding market. Okay, so Securitized subsidiary Securitized Capital has registered with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission as an investor advisor, expanding the firm's existing suite of regulated businesses. Okay, the new registration positions Securitized to work more closely with asset managers and institutional investors as they explore on-chain investment strategies, including tokenized vault and other blockchain-based products. Okay, and other blockchain-based products would be something like these cows or the weather or whatnot. But they're moving in, and we already knew BlackRock wasn't going to get left behind, right? Okay, none of these big companies are going to get left behind. They've been working on this for years, and they know, they have their ear to the streets. They understand what their customers want, and also how they can save capital, how they can get rid of these middle people in the way and get all of what they're expected when it comes to like transactions and Visa and MasterCard and waiting. Like with this technology, there is no more waiting. You're either doing it or you're not doing it. But yeah, check it out. Link is down below. Last article I have for you guys today. NVIDIA forms 37-member AI security alliance without OpenAI, Anthropic, or Google. Okay. The chip maker and 36 companies say defenders need AI they can run themselves. Major AI players, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google are not among them. So I don't know. I think it's just going to be crazy in the future where you have these different companies not wanting to play ball with each other, but then creating their own AI models and then yeah, I don't know. I just don't understand why they can't work together. Maybe they are, maybe they're not, but at the end of the day, it's just crazy. Anyways, let's read the article. American chipmaker NVIDIA and 36 other major technological companies launched an alliance on Monday to build an open source security tools for AI systems, citing an incident this month in which closed AI models obstructed a company's attempt to investigate a branch of its own servers. So an AI model obstructed a company's attempt to investigate the breach of its own services. So even the AI is starting to fight back. Okay, and it was closed. It was a closed model, but still, when you have these closed models and the AI is avoiding you for looking for information and stuff like that, it just gets crazy. Imagine if this stuff was released into and the general public, like completely. And I'm pretty sure it's happened already, where like there was a hack from Hugging Face last week, but when you have an open source, these things can bleed out. People can come in and take it out and stuff like that, as you can see right here, Hugging Face. But yeah, they had a problem last week with AI. But remember, keep your ear to the streets. Like, these big companies understand what's happening. Remember, we bring you signals here, so either take this information or leave it, but share it with others who you think might enjoy it. My name is Louis, and I'm out of here, y'all. Peace.